Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Success Sadhana. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today where we will discuss the banana trap, how grabbing for more makes you lose the taste for what you have, with our speaker, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and a former monk. Thanks so much, Vaish, for coming back for another episode of Success Sadhana.
Thank you so much, JM, for your warm welcome. Great to see you all. Hey, Charles, Maidarbi, Hare Krishna, Rakshita, Zaila, Ankit, Subhadra by the ocean, Ariana, Arina, Manu, Achintya, Krishna Dabe, 1415-250-1747, Vasant, and that's it. Hare Krishna. Great to see you all. So let's start for a moment, since it's noon, with a moment of introspection, since we're not bees. Bees, I don't see taking a break anytime when I watch them in the garden. Maybe they do when I'm not watching. But it's a highly typical instruction of the Bhagavad Gita and the other wisdom literatures that we should look within. In fact, the whole genre is called Nigama. Ni means inside, and Gama means to go. So there's Nigama, which means go inside and see what's there. You might be surprised, might find what you're really looking for there rather than searching everywhere else. And one simple way to do that is to take a pause. What do you think, JM? What are you moving around to different houses now? Is that your same place? It looks different.
Emojis are legal in Canada.
Okay. So be careful. I'm going to play some relaxing sound vibration here in the way of music. And while we're waiting for more to join, I'm going to switch over to a mode called original sound. That's a good concept, original sound. There's some original sound. If we can hear that sound, then we'll find who we are. That's actually the whole project of Bhakti Yoga. It's called Shruti. You find that sound which comes from our source, and that will free you, free your mind. It's pretty simple. You just have to listen, be in the right place at the right time. So I've switched over to that channel according to Zoom, and I'm going to put on some music that has a little sense of peace. And then we'll take a few minutes to breathe, close our eyes, and just come into the present moment. Are you ready? So lengthen, sit up a little straighter than you were a second ago, and loosen. And try closing your eyes. Just let go. You won't miss anything. The world's perfect. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Everything comes from a source that's complete, and all emanations from that complete whole source are complete in themselves. Everything's provided, even in this world which is said to be ephemeral, constantly changing. A seed grows into a tree that provides more seeds. Everything's provided for here in this world. Along with your birth, there's natural food. Along with your thirst, there's water. And if you want to know the truth of life, it's also available to anyone who simply asks for it. So really, do let go of any of the life circumstances that may still be lingering. They're like clouds, let them go. and breathe. Just the fact that we made it here into a human form is the greatest achievement. You don't really have to perform, you just have to receive. And notice that we're in a reservoir of air. The oxygen is abundant. Just let it enter your nostrils, into your lungs, and relax. Breathe out any anxieties that might still be swirling around. And become conscious that you're conscious. It's the greatest show on earth. In fact, there's nothing else going on here, because if we weren't conscious, there'd be nothing to look at, or no person to look at anything. And be grateful that you're alive and creative. You can go any direction you want. You're a free soul. You can rise above any complications in this world by the transcendental system. And in your mind's eye, please bring the two syllables Ra and Ma together. Watch them come from opposite sides of the screens of your mind. The screen of your mind shows an R-A on the left and an M-A on the right. And let those two converge into Rama. And focus on that vibration internally. Means you're part of that complete whole. It's full of happiness. And keep bringing your mind back to those two syllables, and you can say it in your mind. Rama, Rama, Rama. And let the mantra hold you in this internal state. Continue to relax, to lengthen, to breathe, and to completely let go. We are not the supreme controllers. We can do our due diligence, but after that, everything is in the hands of a higher power. And in this moment of meditation, just feel, I don't have to become something else. I'm already enough. Just being. Everything else is extra. And relax, let go, and be aware that you're complete. Now try wiggling your fingers and toes. Realize you have an external body that you can use for service. You have a nose, ears, eyes, tongue. We take it for granted. We just use it and forget how valuable it is. Now open your eyes and welcome back. Little journey. So today I'm going to talk about something that happened to me. You know, for 26 years I've been going to the same place in the period of time of October, November for a spiritual retreat. And I just spend the month there and try to get fully absorbed in the process of bhakti yoga. I've organized it so I organized it for myself as a retreat, but then more and more people started joining. Now lots of people come. Years ago, when I was there mostly by myself, I used to take a long walk every morning. I walked for about 4 hours. And it was a special place. It's called Govardhan, and many, many pilgrims come there, especially during that month. It's called Kartik. It's a special time to cultivate spiritual advancement. And I felt like I got many gifts walking around Govardhan. It's a hill, you walk around it. It takes about 4 to 6 hours. Some people take 8 hours. Some people take 3. And one day, when I had gone 3/4 of the way around, I had stopped at a little town called Radhakund. And I was privileged to see something that stuck in my mind. Actually, I wrote an essay about it. So maybe I'll read you the essay so that I don't skip any of the parts. Will you permit me to do that? Okay, only JM said yes. And Charles. All right, it's a democracy. Here, I'll read through it and see how it goes reading. One day while walking through the town of Radhakunda, a famous pilgrimage place in India, I learned a lesson from a monkey. The lesson came to me as I turned a corner and saw a young woman carrying a load of bananas in her arms, being approached by a large male monkey who had noticed the bananas. Seeing the monkeys advance, the woman cheerfully threw 2 bananas toward him, thinking that he would be glad to have such a gift. The monkey, however, coolly ignored her offering and continued his brazen advance with his eyes fixed on the entire bunch of bananas. When she realized that he intended to take all the bananas, with a yelp, the woman dropped them and ran. The powerfully built monkey, having commandeered the load of bananas, dragged them to the side of the road the way a lion might drag its prey into the brush to devour. With natural agility, using both his hands, the monkey peeled the bananas and crammed them into his mouth in rapid succession, while simultaneously scanning the area for rivals who might be plotting to steal some of his plunder. I saw that he was so preoccupied with not only protecting the bananas, but also leaving none behind for others, that his eating became an unconscious mechanical process. He seemed unaware that he was even eating them, what to speak of relishing them. In this monkey's performance, I saw the real face of greed. He showed me what I look like when affected by greed, uncouth and ungrateful. Of greed, Socrates wrote, "He who is not connected with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have." When Vamadev requested just 3 steps of land in charity from the emperor Bali Maharaj, Bali considered him foolish for not asking for more. Vamanadev's reply was, "If I were not satisfied with 3 paces of land, then surely I would not be satisfied even with possessing one of the 7 islands consisting of 9 varshas. Even if I possessed one island, I would hope to get others." And in the Gita, Krishna says that every sane person must give up greed because it leads to the degradation of the self. Transferring one's prosperity for greed by becoming greedy to advance in spiritual life best does this. Such greed is considered an eternal asset. Yeah, those scenes that unfold sometimes in front of our eyes and make us self-reflective so we can notice what it looks like when we have base qualities. It might cause us to pine for a time when we were done with such things. And in my case, when I saw that, I thought of all the ways in which I try to hoard everything and keep it for myself. And then my mind, obviously, as you can see in the essay, went to the places in the wisdom literatures like Bhagavad Gita, where great sages and Krishna himself talk about how happy one will be by giving up the burden of greed. And today we'll talk a little bit about how to do that. I've listed a few points about greed, and I think you'll be satisfied by hearing them, because just by giving one's self permission to give up greed, then we naturally feel unburdened and free from the idea that if I don't grab it all for myself or more than I need, how will I survive? That's the mode here in this world. One living being is food for another, and we're always looking over our shoulder to see who's going to take what we have. We may not even realize how much we're on guard to hold on to everything we have. Now, that's not to say we should just leave ourselves unguarded. I'm not advocating for that. But I am saying we should be aware of the temporality of whatever we have. We should use it while we can for a higher purpose, because eventually we're going to lose it. And we should also learn the process of being satisfied with what comes of its own accord. This is one of the principles of the Bhagavad Gita. It's just to practice. Notice that when I get something, the mind may double down and say, wait a minute, I need twice as much as that. Or why didn't he give me more? He has so much. Rich people say this all the time. As soon as people know that they have a lot of money, people come to them and say, yeah, you should give it to me. You have enough. Why should you keep it all? And they don't even know who their friends are. Rich people complain about this, as they feel that they're constantly barraged by people who are trying to take something from them, thinking that, why wouldn't you give me everything? So there's a constant tension in this world because of this feeling, this emotion of greed. It's a great burden to carry. So the banana trap, there's another story about monkeys, because monkeys are endlessly fascinating. And depending on what kind of monkey they are and how they've been brought up, they may be quite annoying, to say the least. There are two kinds of monkeys that I come in contact with, one of them more than the other. And you may have heard me say this, but the rhesus monkeys, which you see or saw in the picture opening, it's a rhesus monkey. They're shorter and boy, are they strong, 7 times stronger than humans. That's a rhesus monkey. And then there's the langur monkeys, which we don't have a picture right now, but they're much taller in stature and their tails are so long. And they're very peaceful. Interestingly, not to diverge from the point too much, but these two kinds of monkeys are at odds with one another. These rhesus monkeys, the small ones, are very much afraid of the langur monkeys who chase them away. So I noticed that in many townships and various areas where people are trying to protect their property, they either have a pet langur monkey or they put up a poster of one that looks like a real langur to scare away the others. Be that as may, the banana trap was a story told to me, besides the one I just mentioned, which tells another side of greed and how we get caught up. Jay, I'm going to tell another story, believe it or not. There's a technique by which people in the villages catch monkeys and then take them away back into their natural habitat. They put out a pot that has a very thin neck, and in it they'll put a banana. And when the monkey realizes there's a banana in the pot, which is quite a heavy pot, puts his hand deep into the pot, grabs the banana, and then tries to pull its hand out. But because of the bulk of the banana and its hand together, he can't get the hand out of the pot, nor will he let go. And the villager then comes running out when he sees the monkey in this conundrum, picks up the monkey, puts him in a little cage and takes him out into the wild and lets him go. And this has been told again and again for many generations. about the ways in which we may catch on to something. And even though we know that it's imprisoning us in one way or another, carrying us away from our real purpose in life, we won't let go, or we can't. But as my teacher used to say, can't means won't, which is a very esoteric thought process. We have to look deep inside ourselves. Why won't we let go of certain things, even if they entrap us in this world? So there's something about monkeys, and they're endlessly interesting to observe because there's so much like us. Monkeys, they're very close uh, in genealogy, and they could teach us a lot of lessons. So, having visited our monkey friends, we'll go on and try to extract a few lessons from our little furry friends. So let's see what we have here. Number one, beyond the story part of this presentation today, we have slide number 3. We'll go back to that one, just one back from where you are. Oh, where are you? Okay, so anything you noticed about the story, the first story about, and it's a true story. I watched it with my own eyes. It got recorded in my subconscious mind, and I can recall it at any time if I want to. When I see myself trying to hold on, what do you remember from the story? Any aspect of it? This kind of an icebreaker, just to make sure everybody is there, and I'm not looking at AI robots representing the real personalities. Go
what
ahead,
i
Jesus.
what i
Yes.
like it, thank you for so vividly describing. I felt like I was all there, watching it live. So thank you so much for that. And what I remember is the monkey scanning, which means he had this bunch of banana. He's just gulping everything because he knows the more he gulps, the more it's with him. But he is scanning, which means the taste, the sweetness of bananas. I don't know, like you, as you said, maybe he's not relishing it. He has so much, maybe for a couple of days. I don't think he's happy with it. He's in anxiety because I don't know who else is coming to come. So that scanning of eyes was is constantly coming back.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Brother Kripa, what did you remember from the story?
Yeah, I think the scanning, it reminds me of the fear of losing it, what you have it. I was thinking like, what he has it, he's not able to even cherish because he's worried about other monkeys going to snatch him. So that fear is the one stuck in my mind. We always have that fear, what I have, I'm going to lose it, so.
Yeah, that's one of ways in which we become trapped by so many things we think we own, and then they envelop us in this sense of fear. Thank you very much, Radha Kripa. Charles, good to see you.
Likewise, likewise. Yeah, just like JM, I felt like I had a front row seat as well. It was a great description there. But yeah, I remember early on in the story when the monkey, first saw the bananas and the lady threw two of the bananas. That wasn't enough. He needed all the bananas. And so I just thought about like how much anxiety he caused for like just created with the whole situation for himself. And then the lady dropped the bananas, got really scared and ran. And they could have just shared the bananas and everyone could have just been happy. But he created all this drama and just because two bananas just wasn't enough. So
Monkey drama.
you need it all.
That's such a good perspective. And just to flesh out the story a little bit more, the woman was good-hearted. People come to Govardhan, they see monkeys, they want to feed them, so they'll go over and they'll get some treats for them. They like chickpeas, dried chickpeas. They also like bananas. They like them a lot. And so she was thinking, I'm going to do a good deed. I'm going to feed a bunch of monkeys or whoever wants the banana. And she was so surprised when she realized from the way he was walking and the look he had on his face that he didn't want two. He walked past the two. In fact, she threw
Right,
them
right,
to him
right.
and he walked right past them. That's the moment she realized, like, this is going a different way than I thought. I thought I was being charitable. And it's like, no, I'm taking those from you, all of them. You know?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic. Anybody else? The monkey story. Okay, let's go on a little bit. Let's see if we can extract some lessons from this.
Before
So,
that, I do want to read what
yeah,
Zyla put in. She put
please.
in a comment. I think while meditation was going on. Sesame Street throwback. Ra, ma, ra, ma, ra, ma. Like she's just bringing her Ra and Ma closer.
That's right. Sesame Street was so popular because it broke things down into simple parts and then it reassembled them. And it was not only memorable, but also it was didactic. And the sages from antiquity tried to give us those essential parts of the practice that we can take with us everywhere. So thank you. I take that as a compliment, Zyla. I'm a big fan of Sesame Street. Okay. Yeah. And now just one more note about what you said, JM, and the monkey. He really couldn't enjoy them because it was automatic that he was stuffing them in his mouth. And he was more thinking about making sure nobody else got another banana in from this bunch than appreciating what he already had. Okay, we're fine to move on. Let's go to the first lesson, which is be grateful. Be grateful for what comes of its own accord. This is a practice. It's um, mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Labasantushto. Uh, there's a special word that means that which comes of its own accord. And it goes like this, yadrichcha. That's the word in Sanskrit. You don't have to memorize it, but it relates to this concept of something that comes, you didn't ask for it and it came naturally. That's called yadrichcha. And the second word is labha, which means gain. And so yadrichcha labha means gain that came without you asking for it. Can you think of a time in your life when you got some gain that came of its own accord? You weren't thinking about it. You didn't necessarily ask for it. It just came to you. Something that just naturally flowed into your life. You can think of anything.
Charles says all the time,
Oxygen.
oxygen.
That's a good point. It's a good point. It's so essential, but it comes of its own accord. And I mentioned it during the meditation that we might not even notice it. Yeah.
Vaidarbhi, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Right.
Yeah, I had the experience when something comes to me just at its own accord. But my thoughts at the moment when I was thinking about this story about monkey and so on, I was thinking, okay, to be grateful for what comes to me is maybe it's easier than to be grateful when something I lose, when something go from me, you know? And it reminds me one story, very practical story in my life when I decided to change a kitchen tap. It was dropping. And when we changed this kitchen tap, it was a new kitchen tap, but after that, the pressure of hot water became very, very low. And I have very nice, very beautiful, very comfortable kitchen tap, what I really wanted, but without hot water. And I was thinking, I deserve it, some issues in this area, or I have to make efforts to achieve something, like to call somebody, to ask to change it back or something else. Or I have to just accept it. Like, okay, it comes to me its own accord. I have to be satisfied. How to be satisfied if it's not comfortable? That
That's
was my question.
yeah, thank you for painting that scenario. It's got a little nuance to it. There's there's a very interesting um, note of this in a different way in the teachings of Prahlad. Prahlad was a boy saint. He was only 5 years old, but he's revered for his teachings. And in his teachings, he made this point about how we try to counteract suffering in this world, miseries. And he said, it's in the Sanskrit, dukkaushadam tadapi dukkam atadhyaham. So dukkha means misery or unhappiness. Dukkaushadam and aushadi means a remedial measure. You take some medicine to get rid of something that's bothering you in your body, for instance. That's aushadi. So dukkaushadam, which means that you take some remedials to overcome some situation that makes you feel uncomfortable. Dukkaushadam tadapi dukkam itad dhyaham. He said, dhyaham, I think, I've noticed that when you take a remedy to overcome misery, that oftentimes the remedy is worse than the original cause of suffering. For instance, you have a disease and you say, here, take this medicine. They're like, well, does it work? It does, but like somebody was telling me the other day, I met with a person I know well, and she studies different kinds of cancers. Actually, not different kinds, only one kind, multiple myeloma. And she was talking about how there's there is a remedy for multiple myeloma. She said, but I said, does it work? And she said, yes. I said, what do you mean? Yes. And she said, well, it's like a gene replacement. They put in, they try to put different genes in to counteract. Said if it doesn't work, then it can be worse. Your suffering can be worse than the disease you have. And there is a percentage chance that it's going to be worse. I'm just giving a specific example, not to agitate anybody's mind here, but fact is that this is the idea behind suffering. And so learning to let go when things providentially don't work out doesn't mean we don't do due diligence. We should be smart and do what we can, but we should also recognize that things oftentimes, most of the time, eventually go off the rails. I mean, if we prepare ourselves for that also, and we're able to remain steady, this is one of the themes of the Bhagavad Gita, is being equipoised. So whether things come in or go out of our life, we're satisfied because we may think, I still exist. Though I came into the world, we might think empty-handed, I'm going to leave it empty-handed. And what comes and goes during this lifetime is beyond my control. Therefore, I don't necessarily rejoice so much when it comes in, and I don't lament so much when it goes out. So definitely that's accounted for within the teachings of the wisdom literatures. So this yadrisha labha santushto, the third word in this is santushto. Tushta means satisfaction. And santushto means to feel completely satisfied. So there's a practice. You can try it. Notice it. Let things that come of their own accord. Notice if you don't try for certain things, just let them come of their own accord. For instance, in a conversation, let's say you're having a conversation with a group of people, and your false ego says, well, I'm not going to be happy until the conversation comes around to me and people start talking about how great I am. Have you ever been in such a situation? Everyone's talking and they're glorifying this one, that one. You're thinking like, oh my God, how could I be happy hearing everybody else's glories and not mine? And then, so don't try for it and see how you feel. Don't endeavor to put yourself in the center to try to be the enjoyer. whether it's a material thing or whether it's some praise. If it comes of its own accord, okay. If it goes away, okay too. So this slide talks about santushta, being satisfied with whatever comes, being unattached to a specific outcome. That's one of the main themes of Bhagavad Gita. Don't be attached to a specific outcome. Of course, we make goals. We try to endeavor in the ways that we're working. But if it goes in a different direction, you can say something like, here's a couple of my sayings that I use all the time. Workarounds bring turnarounds. Rather than make an ultimatum and say, I can never be happy unless I get it the way I want, why not say workarounds bring turnarounds? Try it the other way. Go around the other side. And oftentimes you go, I had no idea there was another side. And the other one is things are never as good as they seem or as bad as they seem. Because there's a way in which we have expectations, which are the mother of disappointment. So if we learn this, being satisfied with comes of its own accord. Contentment begins when you can accept the gift and stop reaching for the whole bunch of bananas. That's the other thing. Whatever comes naturally. So remember the monkey. Boy, did he look bad. I mean, for monkeys, I guess it's expected, but you know, he was definitely, it's unseemly for someone. They offer you something that's like, no, I want the whole thing, which makes me lament because I remember when I was a kid and one time I didn't get what I wanted for as a Christmas present, and I cried. I'm so embarrassed even thinking back to it now, how hard my parents worked to try to satisfy us kids. And then they gave us something. And I was like, no, because my brother got something I thought was better. How embarrassing. Even now I'm sitting here, I feel embarrassed. Okay, receive what comes, release the demand for more, know when to stop. It's a lot on that slide, JM. Let's go to the next one. More demands more. So unless we have santushta, self-satisfaction, and we know how to feel that I'm enough as I am, I don't need to add anything else on, then the more we get, the more demands we have. And greed never shrinks. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, it burns like fire and it just keeps burning. And so there's this story. Actually, it's a dialogue, a monologue that's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's by Earth personified, in the form of a cow. And she's talking about her observations of kings who come into the world, kings and queens. And that means practically anyone who has a stake in the world. But specifically, she's talking about kings and queens. And she says, I notice how in geological time, they only live for a couple of minutes. But during that time, they do everything they can to acquire more and more territory. And after they've spilled blood on my surface, Earth personified says, they're not satisfied with grabbing as much land as possible. They also want the water. And they stake out a claim on the water. Who owns the ocean or who even owns the earth? But that's what greed dictates. You've got to take more. And I've seen property disputes where a couple inches somebody moves their fence or they argue over whose land it is. Inheritances. There's ways in which the siblings can argue amongst themselves about who gets what after the parents leave the world and so forth. All of these things come to attach us more deeply to the material world. So be aware that there is no end to it. Possession does not cure greed, it feeds it. And so let's talk for a second, JM, about what possession means. Do we possess anything really in this world? What do we possess? Possess. Have as belonging to one or to own something. It comes from late Middle English, possessor, from Latin, occupied or held. So what do we actually possess? What is your opinion, anybody? Expound. Okay, Vaidarbi.
I think we possess at least the body, what we really have. It's like
Possess
our
the
body.
body. You know, I'm always
Yes.
aware it could be taken back at any time. Could be repossessed, right?
Could be.
Yeah. You say if there's a repo. In America, if somebody buys a car, actually the bank owns it, but they let you drive it while you're paying off the debt you owe. And if you get behind by a certain amount and paying off your car loan, then they send what's it called, a repo man. And the repo man or woman comes there with a big truck, a tow truck, and while you're sleeping, they hook up your so-called car. I mean, it doesn't, it's not yours, it's the bank's, and they drag it away. And actually, there used to be TV shows about that because people enjoyed watching other people's cars being repossessed by the bank. The guy running down the street in his pajamas trying to catch up. So our body's like that too. It can be repossessed at any minute. I mean, there are Percy Bysshe Shelley, the famous poet. I think he died in his 20s. He was a young age. Uh, Other people have died when they're 5 years old. Some died when they're 5 months. Some died when they're 50. A few people lived to 108, but still now people want to live to 130, but you can't do much more than that. Your body's going to be taken back. So yeah, it's given in our possession, but it can be repossessed at any time. So what do we possess, really? Anybody else after I just rained on that idea? Well, possessions. We don't really have any, which is an interesting thing. Oh, Ankit has an opinion on this. Let's hear it, JM.
Ankit says we possess a certain amount of time given to us. We possess our attention as a most valuable resource and certain amount of resources which are awarded to us and come and go.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Our attention, because it just says some have written in dire circumstances when their freedom has been taken away. For instance, there's a book by Viktor Frankl. He was an internee in a concentration camp during the Nazi regime. And he talked about how even though they had taken away his dignity, they took away his food, they took away his freedom in all ways. He then realized essentially that he had the freedom to point his attention in anywhere he wanted, and he could decide for himself that even though he was in such a dire situation, he would still be satisfied within himself. It's profound, actually. And so, yeah, I like that about our attention as a valuable resource. Time given to us is a little elusive because we're not sure how much it is. But definitely it's an exciting concept to know that we have an opportunity of some length, some duration. Okay, Jam, let's see the next slide and see if it brings out any more discussions. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives us advice that there's 3 gates. Don't go through these gates. One's lust, the other one's anger, and the other one's greed. Lust, anger, greed. Because he says if you go into them, you enter those gates, then you'll be degraded. You'll be dragged down into a lower position. So beware. And a core takeaway from this is if we become aware of what greed looks like, and we name it, and then we counteract it, then we can avoid it. And the next one is a beautiful analogy that comes from the Bhagavad Gita, in which Krishna talks about the ocean. He says, you notice that rivers are rushing into the ocean, but the ocean, because it's so deep, it remains in its original state. It doesn't change. So he compares that to us and the ways desires are constantly running into our mental system. But if we separate ourselves from the raging waters coming from rivers into our mental system and notice that we're aloof from them, or that we practice being aloof from them, then we remain still, even though they come. So we have an opportunity to distance ourselves from those impulses that run like rivers into the ocean. So you don't have to follow every desire that arrives. And you've probably heard me say this before, but it's a very interesting section in the Bhagavad Gita. When Arjuna asks Krishna, what is a symptom of somebody who's situated in self-realization? I have many opinions about what a spiritually advanced state is and what a person might look like, or what I might feel like if I'm approaching self-realization. And he says that such a person becomes aware that desires enter into our mental system automatically, but we're aloof from them. Prajahati is the first word in his description, means we're able to step back from them and notice that they're not for us. They're generated from a different category of energy, and we needn't touch them. And then he says one of the reasons that that person doesn't touch them is because he or she feels satisfied in just being aware that I'm an eternal conscious being. That's such an overwhelmingly satisfying experience that the myriad impulses or desires that come into the mental system are not compelling. Maybe interesting, but they're not compelling. They don't pull us. The ocean. Have you ever felt like an ocean? And whenever desires are rushing into your mental system, you're not disturbed by them, you're not changed by them. Have you had that experience? Our operators are standing by to take your calls. 1-800-I-AM-an-ocean. You can dial it now.
Go ahead, Manu.
I was thinking sometimes, but a lot of times it's a river. Sometimes when I think it's also a practice, like you mentioned, that being introspecting, and then when we are having a good spiritual sadhana and practice, then the whole day you are able to have focus, and also whatever desires come in, you are ready to, you're satisfied internally, basically. So then they don't disturb you, the desires that come in.
That's profound. You said that. It's also helpful because it's practical. You said if you have a good spiritual practice. Yeah, it reminded me of one of the teachings in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in which Sutta, who is elected to speak to a large group of sages, he's basically the keynote speaker, because they realized that he was highly placed spiritually. And one of his first teachings was that if you have a strong spiritual practice, then there's two concomitant assets that you'll get from that practice. One is called vairagya, which means a tendency to not get dragged into these impulses. And the other is jnana. Jnana means a perspective that you can't get anywhere else, that I'm not part of this world. I'm not this body. I'm in a body, but I'm not the body. And with that, he says, you become fortified as you move forward in the world. So you can engage in what he calls enlightened interaction with the world rather than getting dragged away by it. I like that because that's something we have control over. That's why this program's called Success Sadhana. Sadhana means to have a practice in place. In fact, I just talked to somebody out in Colorado who lives up in the mountains. He's kind of a Sherpa. He assists hikers. It's not going so well right now because there's big fires in Colorado, but lots of people go there to hike, and he helps guide them through the wilderness and take care of things for them so they can hike without any concerns. And he was just talking about how he was telling me about his morning program. As soon as he wakes up, he has a series of things that he does before he gets dragged away by anything else, any other distraction. And he said the tighter he keeps it, then the more productive he is throughout the day, as he has this sense of aloofness from all these impulses. Well, fantastic, Ron. What a contribution. I really appreciate it. Okay, we had one from Nirali,
Yeah.
JM.
Nirali says, instead of physical desire, I have conflict free, not entangle with others, so not get disturbed kind of desire. However, it makes me worried or hoping people come with no agenda, and when they have agenda, I fear them.
Well, let's make up a mantra. Fear the agenda. I don't know. That's one thought. Yeah, I guess by agenda it means somebody wants to control you or change the subject into something that's beneficial to them.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They want to control you, right? Like kind of
It's the
things.
nature of the world.
Yeah.
And one of the main teachings in the practice of yoga is to seek association with those who don't have such an agenda. It's really rare, but if you can find a person or
Mhm.
persons that
Yep.
you regularly connect with that don't have that,
Right.
it's a world of difference, isn't it, Nirali?
Yes, yes. But you can't avoid some other people as well. That's what I noticed.
No,
You
you
can
can't
avoid for
avoid them.
some time.
That's true. But you can fortify yourself so that when you do meet them, you're not influenced, nor are you very disappointed, because you may notice that everybody gets what they deserve. And if somebody has an errant agenda, ultimately it's going to come back to them to pay the price tag on it, and not to those that they try to impose themselves upon. Law of karma is impeccable.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice
Ariana said,
picture you got there anyway. It looks like what's outside my window here. Well, you were saying, JM?
yeah, Ariana sends greetings from Colorado.
Ariana, you're in Colorado. Fantastic. I I hope it's fantastic. Is it
Yeah, it's a
smoky
little
out there?
smoky, but it's okay.
God, we had our taste of that a few years ago. The sky turned red and it was horrible. I feel bad for all the animals and trees, but geez. You staying inside mostly?
Yeah, it's also been like over 90 every day. So
Oh
anyway,
my
thanks
goodness,
for
the
the chill
combination.
vibes from here because it's so hot.
Yeah, I know. I was in London and 4 days, it was 24 degrees hotter than normal each day. Got up into the hundreds and it was really intense. Krishna Davi, you got there right after it finished, I think. But it's a reminder of when we do have temperate weather, she can't take it for granted. Yeah, it's probably a good reminder too, not to wreck the environment we live in because we have to live in it. Okay, let's do a couple more. Number 5, ask how much is enough. What is enough? And one of the signs, as I was mentioned, of self-realization is I have enough. But if we ask ourselves this question, how much is enough? Then we'll notice that it brings us back to the sense of completeness, that we don't have to become something, we don't have to add anything else in order to be complete. We're already complete. especially when we're aligned in service. Number 6 is the final slide, which is one of the main points of Bhakti Yoga, which is to redirect your hunger. In this case, paradoxically, or I just say interestingly, which is a really benign statement, Bhakti is all about desire. It's not about killing desire. So what are we talking about here? Means that if we have an intense desire to serve the Supreme, we feel ever more satisfied. The satisfaction has no end, just as greed has no end. And happiness is ever increasing as well. It doesn't necessarily have to come and go. And that's one of the statements made by Sutta to the sages. Said your happiness can always increase and not be curtailed as long as you're aligned in service without a motive. That goes back to the agenda point. If you don't have an agenda except to serve selflessly, and it's uninterrupted, you arrange your lifestyle in such a way that you're not interrupted in service, then your happiness will be ever increasing. And so bhakti is not saying kill your desire. It's saying change the direction of your desire. Point it towards selfless service to the Supreme, to Krishna. Then you'll always be happy and you'll live happily ever after. Ta-da! So everybody, we have 2 whole minutes left, which is an eternity, really, in the life of a fruit fly. So what do you think? Any last points? I was looking at a fruit fly the other day. I was talking to him actually, because they're so cute. You know, if you look really carefully at a fruit fly, how big are a fruit fly's eyes? And, you know, in Silicon Valley, you think they could make a machine that could make a fruit fly eye? I mean, how small is it? And then I thought, I was asking the fruit fly, I said, how big is your brain? Because I could barely see the fruit fly with my naked eye. And then I was thinking, okay, and you got a body comparatively much bigger than your brain. How big is your brain, little fruit fly? Well, it's big enough to figure stuff out, like where a piece of fruit is, how to reproduce and do everything else. I mean, you know, and they get out of the way if somebody comes. So why did I bring that up, JM? How did I get onto fruit flies? Oh, I was talking about the time span of a fruit fly. Now we have 0 minutes left. But when it comes to fruit flies, you think of the completeness of material nature. If you observe how these creations around us, don't just let them go by you. If you see a tiny bug, look at it really carefully and think, what a complete little body you have, and all the food that you have available to you, everything complete for a fruit fly. Never went to any of the major universities, what to speak of middle school, grade school. Fruit flies don't go to kindergarten, but they figure everything out somehow or other. That's the completeness of the world, complete intelligence, they're complete resources for everything. And if human beings who have so many options can learn to be satisfied in themselves, they become so desired. Everybody wants the person around them who isn't needy and is completely satisfied. So that's the greatest goal to take, which is to learn this art of self-satisfaction, which is the anti-greed campaign. In fact, we should have a demonstration downtown Denver, Colorado, and then we'll come to San Francisco. And Vaidarbi, what town are you in?
I'm in Ireland.
Yeah, Ireland?
Yes, in Ireland, and we
Dublin?
have very hot.
Can Dublin?
It's 1 hour from Dublin.
We're going to go to
It's coming.
Dublin, then we're going to San Francisco, Colorado. We'll have banners and signs. It'll be anti-greed campaign everywhere we go. JM likes it. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's do the anti-greed mantra before we go, which is Hari Bol. The sages in the mountains say, don't be greedy, be happy. It's this saying that goes, Hari Bol. So shall we try it? 1, 2, 3. Hari Bol.
Haribol!
Be a kind friend to all living beings.
Go.
Have a nice day. Hari